The morning sun sparkled on the Pacific Ocean as the research vessel Discovery bobbed gently in the waves. Professor Anna Rimiki stood at the ship's bow, her weathered hands gripping the railing. At 42, she had spent more time studying ancient artifacts under the sea than most people spent at regular jobs. But today felt different. "Professor, you need to see this." Tom, her assistant, called from the main lab. His voice crackled through her radio with unusual excitement. Inside the lab, a strange object sat on the examination table. They had pulled it up from the ocean floor just hours ago. It looked like a silver teardrop, about the size of a basketball, covered in swirling patterns that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" Tom asked, adjusting his glasses. Rimiki shook her head. In 20 years of underwater archaeology, she had never found anything that wasn't clearly made by human hands. This was different. The metal, if it was metal, felt warm to the touch despite coming from the cold ocean depths. "Run every test we have," she ordered, trying to keep her voice steady, "and don't post anything online." Not yet. As the day turned to evening, their tests revealed nothing but more questions. The object was hollow but had no seams or openings. It was lighter than aluminum but harder than diamond. And strangest of all, it hummed faintly at a frequency just below human hearing. At midnight, as Rimiki sat alone with the artifact, something changed. The patterns on its surface began to glow with a soft blue light. Before she could call for help, a beam shot from the object to the ceiling, projecting what looked like a star map. "Oh my God," she whispered, reaching for her phone to record the moment. But before she could press record, the entire ship shuddered. Above the Discovery, the clouds parted. A ship, there was no other word for it, descended from the sky. It was beautiful in its strangeness, crystal-like structures that flowed into organic shapes, all glowing with the same blue light as the artifact. The ship's radio crackled to life. "Professor Anna Rimiki," a calm voice said in perfect English, "I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but you have activated a beacon we placed here long ago. I am Frairen, lead researcher of the Stellar Council's Archaeological Division." Rimiki's mind raced. First contact. This was first contact, and it was happening because of her discovery. She pressed the radio button. "This is Professor Rimiki. Welcome to Earth." A soft chuckle came through the radio. "Thank you, Professor. May I come aboard? I believe we have much to discuss." Minutes later, Rimiki stood face to face with an alien. Frairen was tall and slender, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the ship's lights. 4 arms moved with careful grace as they gestured, and large eyes with pupils like spinning galaxies studied everything with obvious curiosity. "Most species," Frairen explained, "when they find our beacons, immediately try to weaponize them or sell them. You, Professor, spent an entire day trying to understand it. This is why I requested to monitor Earth personally." "You've been watching us?" Rimiki asked, surprised by how calm she felt. "For centuries, most of the Council considers humans too primitive to contact. But I've seen something they miss. Your species solves problems in ways we would never imagine. You see patterns we overlook. You make leaps of logic that defy our careful calculations." Frairen's eyes sparkled. "And now, thanks to you activating this beacon, I can finally propose what I've wanted to for years. A joint mission." "What kind of mission?" "Something is wrong with our galaxy, Professor. Advanced civilizations are vanishing, leaving only ruins behind. The Council's traditional methods have failed to uncover why. I believe we need a fresh perspective." "Your perspective." Frairen extended one hand. "Would you like to help me solve the greatest mystery in the galaxy?" Rimiki looked at the alien hand, then back at the artifact that had started it all. Her whole life had been about discovering the unknown, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Now those boundaries were about to expand beyond anything she had imagined. She took Frairen's hand. When do we start? The meeting room aboard the Stellar Council's space station felt cold and unfriendly. Rimiki sat beside Frairen, trying not to stare at the 12 alien council members who looked down at them from their elevated seats. Each council member appeared different. Some had scales, others had fur, and one seemed to be made entirely of crystal. "This request is unprecedented," said the head counselor, whose metallic skin reflected the room's bright lights. "A human has never been granted access to council technology." Frairen stood tall, all four hands clasped behind their back. "Professor Rimiki solved in one day what our teams failed to understand for centuries. The beacon's activation was not random. It responded to her problem-solving approach." "Humans are unstable," growled a furry council member. "They still fight wars over primitive resources." Rimiki felt her face grow hot, but before she could speak, Frairen stepped forward. "With respect, council member, when was the last time any of our research teams made a breakthrough in understanding the ancient ruins? We follow the same paths, use the same methods, and find nothing new." The crystal being chimed softly. "The human will demand weapons technology. They always do." "Actually," Rimiki spoke up, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I'm more interested in your translation systems. The ability to read any ancient language we find would be far more valuable than weapons." The council chamber fell silent. The head counselor leaned forward. "You would choose knowledge over power." "Power without knowledge is worthless," Rimiki answered. "I've spent my life studying the past to understand the future. That's why I'm here." The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, the head counselor spoke again. "We will provide you with a ship, the Starweaver. It is not our newest vessel." "It's perfect," Frairen said quickly, before anyone could object. "An older ship will be easier for human systems to interface with." "You will have limited resources," the furry counselor added, "and strict guidelines about what technology can be shared with Earth." Rimiki nodded. "I understand. Earth isn't ready for most of your technology. I'm here to learn, not to steal secrets." After leaving the council chamber, Frairen led Rimiki through crystal corridors to a viewing deck. Through the massive window, Earth glowed like a blue jewel in the darkness. "That went better than expected," Frairen said, their galaxy eyes spinning with amusement. "They didn't even demand genetic samples." "They think we'll fail," Rimiki replied, still looking at Earth. "They're giving us an old ship and limited resources because they expect nothing from us." "Exactly." Frairen's silver skin rippled with excitement, "which means they won't be watching us too closely. We'll have freedom to explore our own way." A door slid open, and a hologram appeared in front of them, showing a ship that looked like a silver leaf with glowing veins running through it. The Starweaver. "She's beautiful," Rimiki whispered. "She's yours to command," Frairen said. "I may know the technology, but you have the instincts we need. The council doesn't understand. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Your primitive methods might see things our advanced scanners miss." Rimiki turned to her new partner. "When I was a child, I dreamed of finding Atlantis. Now I'm going to explore the entire galaxy. It's overwhelming." "Here's something else overwhelming," Frairen said, pulling out a small device. "The locations of every known alien ruin in the galaxy. Thousands of sites, each with its own mystery. Where should we start?" Rimiki smiled, feeling the same excitement she'd felt when she'd first chosen to become an archaeologist. "Let's start with the oldest one. In my experience, the beginning of the story is usually the key to understanding everything that follows." "Then let's go make history," Frairen said, "by uncovering history." The Starweaver waited for them in its docking bay, ready to carry humanity's first official ambassador to the stars. The greatest archaeological expedition in human history was about to begin. The Starweaver dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a planet that seemed split in half. One side burned under constant sunlight, while the other remained frozen in endless darkness. Between these extremes lay a narrow band of twilight, where the ruins of an ancient civilization had been discovered. The precursor library, Frairen said, their silver skin reflecting the starlight. 32 research teams have tried to enter it. All failed. Rimiki studied the holographic display showing the building's exterior. It looked like a giant bubble made of black glass, sitting in the twilight zone where the planet's heat and cold created constant storms. What stopped them? She asked, noting the strange patterns that covered the bubble's surface. The security system kills any technology more advanced than simple mechanical tools, Frairen explained. Even my environmental suit won't work near it. That's why most teams gave up. Rimiki smiled. Then we won't use advanced technology. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways, remember. Hours later, they stood before the black bubble in simple protective suits that used compressed air instead of electronics. The storm winds howled around them, mixing hot and cold air in dangerous swirls. These patterns, Rimiki said, touching the bubble's surface. They're not random. They remind me of something. She pulled out a simple paper notebook and pencil, starting to copy the designs. What are you doing? Frairen asked through their suit's mechanical voice box. Our best computers couldn't find any pattern. That's the problem, Rimiki replied, still drawing. You looked for patterns a computer would recognize. But these, she held up her notebook. These are like the string games children play on Earth. Cat's Cradle, Witch's Broom, Jacob's Ladder. They're all here. Frairen leaned closer. String games? Games where you make patterns with string between your fingers. They're found in almost every human culture. And look. She pointed to a spot where several lines crossed. This is exactly like the first move in Cat's Cradle. You think the security system is a game. Why not? The best way to preserve knowledge is to make people prove they can think before you give it to them. Rimiki pulled a length of string from her pocket. The patterns show us the moves. We just have to follow them. For the next hour, Rimiki created string patterns based on the designs, with Frairen helping by holding strings with their forehands. As they completed each pattern, sections of the bubble's surface changed color. It's working, Frairen exclaimed as they finished the 10th pattern. But there are thousands more. It could take years to... No, Rimiki interrupted. Look at how the patterns flow. They're telling a story. Each group leads to the next, like teaching someone the game step by step. She pointed to a new section. These are variations of the same pattern. We don't need to do every single one, just the main sequence. 3 hours later, their hands sore from working with the string, they completed what Rimiki believed was the final pattern. The bubble's surface rippled like water, and a doorway appeared. Inside, they found a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that glowed softly. Each crystal contained countless images and symbols, the collected knowledge of an ancient civilization. Incredible, Frairen whispered. Their entire history, their science, their culture, it's all here. And you opened it with a piece of string. Rimiki was already examining the nearest crystal. They wanted to be sure that whoever found this place would understand the importance of play, of looking at problems from different angles. She turned to Frairen with excitement in her eyes. This isn't just a library. It's a message about how to think. The Council will never believe this, Frairen said, their galaxy eyes spinning faster than usual. Then we'll have to show them something they can't ignore. Rimiki pointed to a crystal that glowed brighter than the others. And I think I know where to start. The library had kept its secrets for millions of years, waiting for someone who could think like a child to solve its ancient puzzle. Now, its knowledge was finally ready to be shared with the galaxy again. 3 months after discovering the precursor library, Rimiki sat in the Starweaver's observation room, staring at a strange star. Unlike normal stars that burned yellow or red or blue, this one pulsed with patterns of light that reminded her of ocean waves. The Council's scientists have studied this star for centuries, Frairen said, entering the room with a stack of data crystals. They're convinced it's trying to communicate, but all attempts at contact have failed. Rimiki watched another wave of light ripple across the star's surface. What methods did they try? Mathematical sequences, binary code, electromagnetic pulses. Every logical system we could think of. Frairen set down the crystals. We even tried translating the pulses into council languages. But you never tried music or art, Rimiki said softly, still watching the stars dance. Frairen's galaxy eyes spun in confusion. Why would we? Those aren't precise communication methods. Rimiki stood up and walked to the window. When I was young, I learned about how whales communicate in Earth's oceans. Their songs can travel for miles underwater. At first, scientists thought they were just random noises. Then they realized the whales were creating complex melodies, sharing stories and emotions. She turned to Frairen. These light patterns, they're not equations, they're songs. Using the Starweaver's simple sound system, they began converting the star's light pulses into musical notes. Rimiki adjusted the conversion until the random beeps became a haunting melody that filled the ship. It's beautiful, Frairen whispered, their silver skin rippling with the music. Now we need to answer, Rimiki said. She took out her old tablet computer, too simple for the star's defenses to bother with, and opened a paint program. If they communicate in waves of light, let's send them waves of color. She began drawing patterns that matched the star's melody, creating swirling designs of blue and gold. The Starweaver's external lights, normally used for maintenance work, projected her artwork into space. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the star's surface erupted in new patterns, brighter and more complex than before. The ship's speakers filled with a symphony of alien music. It's responding. Frairen rushed to the computer. The universal translators are starting to find meaning in the patterns. It's telling us a story. The star's song spoke of ancient times, when stars were born with consciousness, when they watched over younger races and shared their knowledge freely. But something had changed. A darkness was coming, moving between the galaxies, and the living stars were trying to warn everyone. Why didn't they just say this directly? Frairen wondered. Because they don't think like us, Rimiki explained. They're beings of pure energy and light. To them, mathematics probably seems as limited as sign language would to a composer. They needed someone to speak their language, the language of art and music. A new pattern appeared on their screens, coordinates pointing to other living stars across the galaxy. Each one had its own song, its own story to tell. The council never found this because they were looking for facts and figures, Rimiki said. But some things can only be understood through feeling and creativity. Like the string games at the library, Frairen added, their voice excited. The precursors wanted us to think differently. What if they knew about the living stars? What if everything we're finding is connected? Before Rimiki could answer, the star's song changed. The new melody carried a sense of urgency that needed no translation. What's it saying? Frairen asked. Rimiki's face grew serious. It's a warning. Those coordinates, they're not just showing us where other living stars are. They're showing us a pattern of stars that have gone dark. She pointed to the map. Something is killing them, one by one. And whatever it is, it's getting closer. The living star pulsed one final time, its song carrying both hope and fear into the depths of space. Humanity's first conversation with a star had revealed not just wonders, but dangers nobody had imagined. The emergency meeting of the Stellar Council was interrupted by a blinding flash of light. Through the station's massive windows, they watched as another star went dark, its song silenced forever. That's the fifth star this week, the head counselor said, their metallic skin dulled with worry. And now we know they aren't just stars. They're living beings we ignored for millennia. Rimiki stood before the council, no longer intimidated by their presence. The Void Hunters, as the living stars call them, are breaking through from another dimension. Our standard weapons can't hurt them because they're not fully in our reality. A hologram appeared, showing dark shapes moving between the stars like oil spreading through water. The council members watched in silence as another star dimmed. "Our most advanced weapons have failed," the crystal counselor chimed sadly. "Even our quantum disruptors barely slow them down." Rimiki stepped forward, pulling up an image on her tablet. "Then maybe we need to stop thinking about weapons and start thinking about nature." She showed them a picture of deep-sea creatures. "On Earth, we have animals that live in the darkest parts of our oceans. They've developed amazing ways to deal with threats." Frairen's galaxy eyes spun with sudden understanding. "The anglerfish, it uses light to confuse predators." "Exactly," Rimiki said. "And the jellyfish can become nearly invisible. But most importantly, many deep-sea creatures form partnerships to survive. They share abilities and protect each other." She pressed another button, showing diagrams from the precursor library. "The living stars aren't just beings of light. They're beings of energy. If we could help them share their energy in new ways. Like a network of sea creatures working together," Frairen finished. "We could create energy fields that disrupt the Void Hunter's dimensional tunnels." The council chamber erupted in discussion. The furry counselor, who had once doubted Rimiki, spoke up. "But how do we build something like that? We've never successfully merged biology with energy manipulation at this scale." "That's where the Starweaver comes in," Rimiki explained. "It's an older ship, simpler. The Void Hunters have trouble detecting it. We can use it to get close to the living stars and help them connect." Over the next week, they modified the Starweaver based on Rimiki's insights from marine biology and Frairen's technical knowledge. They covered the hull with crystals that could channel stellar energy, like the bioluminescent spots on deep-sea fish. When the first Void Hunter appeared near a living star, they were ready. The Starweaver moved into position, its crystalline network glowing softly. As the dark shape reached for the star, Rimiki activated the system. Energy flowed from the star through the ship's crystal network, spreading out in patterns copied from jellyfish defense mechanisms. The Void Hunter recoiled as its dimensional tunnel collapsed. "It's working," Frairen shouted, all four hands flying over the controls. "The star's energy is disrupting their ability to exist in our dimension." But their victory was short-lived. More Void Hunters appeared, learning from the first one's failure. They moved faster, their shapes changing to avoid the energy field. "They're adapting," Rimiki said, watching the displays. "Just like deep-sea predators learn to counter their prey's defenses." She turned to Frairen. "We need to connect more stars. Create a bigger network." The Starweaver raced through space, helping stars link their energy fields together. Each connection made the network stronger, creating patterns of light that pushed back against the darkness. But as they worked, Rimiki noticed something strange in the data from the precursor library. The patterns of stellar energy were changing, becoming more complex. Something unexpected was happening. Something that would change their understanding of life itself. "Frairen," she called, pointing to the readings. "I don't think we're just helping the stars defend themselves. I think we're helping them evolve." The Starweaver drifted in space, surrounded by a network of glowing energy that connected dozens of living stars. Inside the ship, Rimiki stared at the latest readings with wide eyes. "The precursors didn't vanish," she whispered. "They evolved. They became beings of pure energy, just like the stars." Frairen moved closer to the screen, their silver skin reflecting the stellar light. "But if they evolved beyond physical form, why did they leave the library behind? Why create puzzles that required hands to solve?" Before Rimiki could answer, a new alert sounded. More Void Hunters were appearing, larger than before. Their dark shapes twisted in impossible ways as they tore through space. "They're not just hunting stars," Rimiki said suddenly. "They're trying to prevent evolution. They're stopping species from reaching higher states of existence." A transmission cut through their discussion. The head counselor's metallic face appeared on screen. "The Void Hunters have changed tactics. They're attacking populated worlds now." Our defenses are failing. Rimiki watched the energy patterns flowing between the stars. Something about their movement reminded her of synapses firing in a brain. Then it hit her. "We're thinking about this all wrong," she said. "The precursors didn't just evolve. They got stuck. They became so advanced, they lost their connection to the physical world. That's why they needed the library, why they needed beings with physical forms to solve their puzzles." Frairen's galaxy eyes spun faster. "And that's why the Void Hunters attack developing civilizations. They're trying to prevent more species from getting trapped between dimensions. But humans," Rimiki touched the energy field flowing through the ship, "we're still connected to our primitive past while reaching for the future. We can be a bridge." She ran to the ship's control room, Frairen following close behind. "The precursors and the living stars have massive power, but can't interact with physical matter. The Council has advanced technology, but is too rigid in their thinking. And humans," she smiled, "we're primitive enough to still think simply, but advanced enough to understand complex ideas." "What are you suggesting?" Frairen asked. "A three-way connection. The precursors and stars provide energy, the Council provides technology, and humans." She held up her hands. "We provide the physical connection and the creative thinking to make it all work together." Working quickly, they modified the Starweaver's crystal network. Rimiki used the simple string game patterns from the library to create new energy flows, while Frairen adapted Council technology to handle the increased power. When the next wave of Void Hunters attacked, they were ready. Energy from the stars flowed through the ship's crystal web, guided by Rimiki's understanding of patterns. The Starweaver became a conduit between dimensions, allowing the precursors to act in the physical world again. The result was beautiful and terrifying. Patterns of light and energy danced through space, pushing back the darkness. The Void Hunters found themselves trapped between dimensions, unable to fully enter or leave their reality. "It's not just defending against them," Frairen observed. "It's showing them another way. A balance between physical and energy forms." The Void Hunters' shapes began to change. Instead of fighting against evolution, they started to adapt to it. Their darkness transformed into swirling patterns of deep purple and blue, becoming part of the cosmic dance instead of trying to stop it. As the transformation spread across space, Rimiki received a new signal. It was pure energy, but she could understand it now. A message from the precursors. "They're thanking us," she translated. "Not for fighting the Void Hunters, but for showing everyone a middle path, a way to evolve without losing touch with their origins." Frairen placed one of their four hands on her shoulder. "You've changed the course of galactic evolution." "No," Rimiki corrected, watching the beautiful light show outside. "We all did it together. Every species playing their part, just like the pattern in a string game." 1 year after the transformation of the Void Hunters, the Stellar Council's meeting chamber looked very different. The elevated seats were gone, replaced by a circular arrangement where all species sat at the same level. Energy beings flickered beside physical forms, while transformed Void Hunters added their deep purple glow to the gathering. Rimiki stood in the center with Frairen, presenting their proposal for the Multi-Dimensional Research Academy. The holographic display showed a massive structure being built in the twilight zone of the same planet where they had found the precursor library. "The academy will be a place where all forms of life can study together," Rimiki explained. "Physical beings, energy beings, and everything in between. No more separation, no more assumptions about who is primitive and who is advanced." "The building itself reflects this philosophy," Frairen added, their silver skin gleaming. "One section uses simple mechanical tools like the library, another houses the most advanced technology, and the central area allows energy beings to manifest freely." The head counselor, who had once doubted them, spoke up. "And you believe humans should take the lead in this project?" "Not lead. Connect," Rimiki corrected. "Humans are still young compared to most species here. We make mistakes, we act on emotion, we cling to physical forms. But that's exactly why we're valuable. We bridge the gap between matter and energy, between instinct and logic. A patch of starlight shifted forward, one of the living stars, attending through a projection. Its song filled the chamber, translated now by the new systems Rimiki and Frairen had developed. The human speaks truth, the star sang. Our greatest mistake was thinking evolution only moved in one direction, toward energy, toward pure thought. We forgot the value of staying connected to our origins. A transformed void hunter moved next to the star, their purple glow harmonizing with the stellar light. And our mistake was fighting against change instead of finding balance. The humans showed us there are many paths to growth. The council chamber filled with approving sounds from a dozen different species. The head counselors stood, their metallic skin now decorated with patterns that resembled the string game designs. The Academy proposal is approved, they announced. And in recognition of the changes you've brought to our galaxy, we have one more announcement. They turned to Frairen. You once requested to study humans because you saw potential in them. Now, Earth will be offered a permanent seat on the council. Rimiki felt tears in her eyes. Earth isn't ready for that level of responsibility yet. No, the head counselor agreed. But you've taught us the value of growing together. Earth will learn as we all continue to learn. Later, standing on the observation deck of the Starweaver, Rimiki and Frairen watched construction begin on the Academy. Energy beings danced between physical workers, while transformed void hunters used their ability to cross dimensions to help solve engineering challenges. Did you ever imagine this? Frairen asked. When you first found that beacon in the ocean? Rimiki shook her head. I was just looking for artifacts, trying to understand the past. Instead, we helped shape the future. She touched the window. Though I suppose the precursors planned this all along. The library, the puzzles, the string games, they were teaching us how to bring everyone together. Speaking of string games, Frairen said, pulling out a piece of string with their 4 hands. I've been practicing. Want to see a new pattern I created? Rimiki laughed. A council member playing string games. What would your younger self think? My younger self thought humans were primitive, Frairen replied, starting to weave the string. Now I know better. Sometimes the simplest things can teach the greatest lessons. As they watched the Academy take shape, stars sang ancient songs, energy beings danced through space, and the transformed void hunters added their own harmony to the cosmic symphony. The galaxy had changed, and at the heart of that change was a simple truth. Every form of life had something to teach and something to learn.